Hello, listeners. Welcome to another episode of Scary Night, the podcast where I share my terrifying experiences with the paranormal. Tonight, I have a story that will chill you to the bone. It happened last week when I was staying at a cabin in the woods with my friends. We had rented the cabin for a weekend getaway, hoping to enjoy some nature and relaxation. The cabin was cozy and rustic, with a fireplace, a kitchen, and 2 bedrooms. It was surrounded by tall trees and a small lake. It seemed like the perfect place to unwind. The first night, we had a barbecue and played some games. We had a lot of fun and laughter, and we didn't notice anything strange or unusual. We went to bed around midnight, feeling tired and happy. I was sharing a room with my friend Lisa. We had 2 single beds on opposite sides of the room. There was a window next to my bed, facing the woods. I closed the curtains before I went to sleep, but I left a small gap to let some moonlight in. I don't know what time it was when I woke up, but it was still dark outside. I felt a cold breeze on my face, and I realized that the window was open. I got up to close it, thinking that maybe Lisa had opened it for some fresh air. But when I looked at the window, I saw something that made my blood run cold. There was a face staring at me from the other side of the glass. It was pale and gaunt, with sunken eyes and a twisted mouth. It had long black hair that covered most of its features, but I could still see its expression of malice and hunger. It was a woman, or at least it used to be. She looked like she had been dead for a long time, but somehow she was still alive. And she was looking right at me, as if she knew I was there. I screamed and ran to the door, hoping to wake up Lisa and get out of there. But the door was locked, and I couldn't open it. I banged on it, shouting for help, but no one answered. I looked back at the window, and the woman was still there, smiling wickedly. She raised her hand and tapped on the glass, making a soft, eerie sound. She mouthed something, but I couldn't hear what she said. I think it was my name. I was paralyzed with fear, unable to move or think. I felt like I was trapped in a nightmare, and I couldn't wake up. I don't know how long I stayed there, staring at the woman, but it felt like an eternity. Then I heard a loud crash from the other side of the room. I turned around, and I saw Lisa lying on the floor, covered in blood. She had jumped out of her bed and smashed her head on the nightstand. She was still alive, but barely. She looked at me with a terrified expression and whispered one word: "Run." I don't know how I did it, but I managed to break the window and climb out. I grabbed Lisa by the arm and dragged her with me. She was still alive, but barely. She looked at me with a grateful expression and whispered one word: "Thank you." I ran as fast as I could, carrying Lisa on my shoulder. I didn't look back. I didn't stop. I didn't care. I just wanted to get away from that woman and that cabin. I reached the car, and I drove away, without waiting for the others. I don't know if they made it out alive, or if they saw the woman too. I don't know what she was or what she wanted. I don't know if she's still out there looking for me. All I know is that I saved Lisa, and that we're still alive. And I will never go back to that cabin or that woods. And I will never forget that face, that smile, that voice. We drove for hours without a destination in mind. We just wanted to put as much distance as possible between us and that cabin. Lisa was unconscious for most of the time, but I kept checking her pulse and breathing. She was still alive, but she needed medical attention. I tried to call 911, but there was no signal. I cursed myself for not bringing a map or a GPS. I had no idea where we were or where the nearest town was. I hoped to find a gas station or a motel or anything that could help us. But all I saw was darkness and trees and silence. I started to feel paranoid, as if we were being followed. I kept looking in the rearview mirror, expecting to see that woman's face. But there was nothing there, just the empty road. I tried to calm myself down, telling myself that it was over, that we had escaped. But I couldn't shake off the feeling of dread, that something was wrong, that something was waiting for us. Then I saw a sign. It said, "Welcome to Silent Hill." I felt a surge of relief, thinking that we had finally found a place to rest and get help. I drove towards the sign, hoping to see some lights, some people, some signs of life. But as I got closer, I realized that the sign was old and rusty, and that the town was abandoned. There were no lights, no people, no signs of life. There were only buildings, cars, and streets, covered in dust and decay. I felt a chill in the air, and I noticed that the sky was getting darker. There were only buildings, cars, and streets, covered in dust and decay. I felt a chill in the air, and I noticed that the sky was getting darker. It was as if the sun had disappeared and a thick fog had taken its place. I could barely see anything, and I had to slow down. I wondered if I had taken a wrong turn, or if I had entered a different dimension. I wondered if this was some kind of trap, or a nightmare. I wondered if we were still alive, or if we had died. I looked at Lisa, and I saw that she was awake. She looked at me with a terrified expression and whispered one word. "Where are we?" I didn't have an answer. I didn't know where we were or what was happening. I didn't know if we would ever get out of there or if we would ever see the sun again. I didn't know if this was the end or the beginning. That's my story, listeners. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you sleep well tonight. Because you never know where you might end up or what you might find. Good night and sweet dreams.